Welcome to another episode of How to Fight with a Longsword, or in other words, the Liechtenauer Tradition Longsword Fencing Basic Course. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at Parry Ripostes and the 4 openings. This episode will be heavily building on the foundation of the previous one, so if you haven't seen them yet, I recommend that you go and watch them right now. Before we start with the actual subject of this episode, do note that the incorrect examples are exaggerated on purpose so that the issues are easier to see. All the techniques based on the historical sources are shown according to my current interpretations. As such, they are subject to change if I ever come up or run into a better interpretation. Let's start with the parry riposte. You already know what a parry is and how to do one. If your opponent has gotten the initiative with a Vorschlag, they can continue attacking with an Umschlag. But what if they don't? This is where riposte comes into play. Riposte simply means that you parry an attack and then immediately return an attack of your own. Technically, you can also riposte even if your opponent tries to continue attacking. They can either be too slow or they might have chosen a follow-up which allows you to riposte safely. You might also have been able to make a parry which allows you to riposte very easily. However, especially in the beginning, trying to riposte when your opponent is still attacking usually ends up with both fences getting hit. As you get more experience, you start to get an idea on whether you can or cannot riposte after a specific parry. You will also get better at parrying in a way which allows you to riposte easily. Parry riposte is different from a counterattack. With a counterattack, you both attack and parry in a single action. With a parry riposte, there are 2 actions, parry and riposte. Now, let's get to the drills. For the first drill, the coach stands in Flug on the dominant side and the trainee in Fontag. The distance is such that the coach can attack with an Unterhaw with a passing step. The coach cuts an Unterhaw at the head of the trainee. The trainee parries in a Flug-like position. After parrying, the trainee thrusts the coach in the face. Do not leave the bind. Reset and repeat. It is important that this is 2 actions. First a parry, then a riposte with a thrust. Do not try to parry and thrust at the same time. You should not need to take a step when thrusting. If you can't reach with a thrust, it means that the coach wasn't close enough to land a cut in the first place. Also keep the parry as small as possible, as it makes riposting easier. The wider you parry and further the side the sword is pointing to, the harder and slower it is to deliver the riposte. Once again, after the trainee has a hang of riposting, they should skip a parry every now and then. This makes sure that the coach is actually making proper cuts aimed at the trainee's head. Then a basic parry riposte against an Oberhaw. Now, this is far from the most optimal parry riposte against this specific attack. However, this has 2 things going for it. 1, it only uses actions you know, and 2, it works well against beginners, and it teaches those beginners some important skills. For example, a more optimal riposte after parrying an Oberhaw would be cutting with the short edge to the dominant side of your opponent's head. This way, you don't need to move your sword away from where it already parried the attack, and it also would cover the most obvious attack line. However, this is something you don't yet know how to do. We are going to riposte with an Oberhaw to the opponent's non-dominant side if they pull their sword away. We are going to do this for 2 main reasons. Firstly, it is a cut you already know how to do. Secondly, it only works if your opponent pulls their sword away and doesn't continue attacking. As such, it teaches you how to read whether your opponent is going to continue attacking or not. It will also teach your opponent that they will get hit if they pull their sword away and stop attacking without breaking distance. The most common Umschlag after an Oberhaw is to cut another Oberhaw to the other side. The normal reaction against this is to turn to parry the attack. As such, we are going to presume that the trainee is going to do the parrying motion before noticing that the coach is not going to attack. This makes it more natural to riposte with an overhaul from the dominant side. This also allows us to build a drill on this movement pattern. Now to the drills. Both fencers stand in front arc at a passing step distance. The coach cuts an Oberhaw to the non-dominant side of the trainee's head. The trainee parries. Now the coach pulls their sword back to their shoulder, but they don't try to back away. The trainee turns towards their dominant side and ripostes with an Oberhaw to the coach's head. It is important that the coach doesn't remain in a bind, as this riposte doesn't work in that specific situation. After the trainee has hang of riposting, they should skip a parry every now and then. These make sure that the coach makes a proper attack. The initial actions for the second drill are the same. However, now the coach may continue with an Umschlag if they want to. They should do this roughly half the time. If the coach makes an Umschlag, the trainee parries. If the coach only pulls their sword away, the trainee ripostes just like in the previous drill. If the coach makes the Umschlag, they must do so immediately after the Vorschlag. They can also start by making the Umschlag rather large, so that it is easier to see. Once again, follow the 70 to 80% success rule. If the trainee keeps failing more than that, slow the drill down and make the Umschlag more obvious. Next we will learn a very useful cutting drill. It is taken from a noticeably newer source from 1570. It is called the Meyer square after the author. In this drill, we will only use the first 4 cuts in the 16 cut sequence. It is easier to learn and is easily enough for our purposes. This time, we will also be attacking to the 4 openings. Our opponent can be split into 4 parts. Do the right and left from the middle, and to upper and lower from the girdle. I interpret this meaning the lower being below the ribcage. In the pair drills, aim the Oberhaws at the head and the Unterhaws at the waist. Be careful not to hit your partner in case they fail to parry the Unterhaws. In the Meyer square drill, you will make 4 full cuts with a passing step. The cuts are the following: an Oberhaw from the dominant side, an Unterhaw from the non-dominant side, an Unterhaw from the dominant side, an Oberhaw from the non-dominant side. You can then start from the first cut to repeat the drill. If you have limited space, you can do this by taking alternating forwards and backwards steps. This way you only need enough space to take a single passing step. Remember to make proper full cuts. Do not simply cut using your wrists. In this drill, the coach attacks the trainee according to the Meyer square. The trainee parries the cuts while taking passing steps backwards. Once again, remember to make proper cuts. Don't cut only with your wrists. It is up to the coach to make sure that they are at the correct distance as the trainee backs away. Make sure that you don't end up too close or fall too much behind. When parrying, make proper parries instead of just moving your hands. You must turn your center towards the incoming attack. Now we combine the Meyer square parrying drill with the riposte drill. The coach attacks according to the Meyer square, but at some point in the sequence they stop attacking. At that point, the trainee immediately ripostes. Riposte with a thrust after parrying an Unterhaw and with an Oberhaw after parrying an Oberhaw. Make sure to only attack when the coach stops attacking. Otherwise, it is likely that the end result is both fences getting hit. Before we get into the recap, go and tap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Parry riposte simply means that you parry an attack and then immediately return an attack of your own. Parry riposte is different from a counterattack. With a counterattack, you both attack and defend yourself in a single action. With a parry riposte, there are 2 actions: parry and riposte. Our opponent can be split to 4 parts: to right and left from the middle, and to upper and lower from the girdle. I interpret that as the lower being below the rib cage. In the Meyer square drill, you want to make 4 full cuts with a passing step. The cuts are the following: an Oberhaw from the dominant side, an Unterhaw from the non-dominant side, an Unterhaw from the dominant side, and Oberhaw from the non-dominant side.